LogRhythm's Netmon Freemium delivers real-time network visibility to quickly identify emerging threats in your IT environment. Netmon Freemium is a free commercial-grade network forensics and traffic analytics solution. You can use Netmon Freemium's powerful capabilities to search against all observed network traffic, identify abnormal traffic patterns and application usage, and quickly analyze full packet captures. Take the first step towards real-time network visibility. Visit logRhythm.com/freemium to learn more and download it today. IT Pro TV is the resource to keep you and your IT team's skills up to date. IT Pro TV's team solution provides group pricing and access to their supervisor portal. You'll gain full control over your team's training schedule, see individual and group analytics, and more. IT Pro TV does IT live every day, so you know you're getting the most current IT training. Go to itpro.tv/enterprise security and use the code ES30 to try it free for 7 days and receive 30% off your monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. To learn more about IT Pro TV's team solution, sign up for a free demo of their supervisor portal. Welcome back, everyone. Before we get started, SANS Pentest Hackfest Summit, November 13th through the 20th in Bethesda, Maryland. There will be all kinds of fun things going on, including a 2-day summit of talks, 3 nights of net wars with Coinapalooza, 1 night of Cyber City missions, and a super secret challenge. You can visit SANS.org/Hackfest17 and use the discount code Hackfest17 and receive $300 off the 2-day Hackfest summit. John, you'll be there,
You know
right?
what? I will be, I think, if Ed will invite me. At any rate, SANS also, the Hackfest has the coolest T-shirts ever. The only shirts that come close were B-Sides Cleveland. But if you're just in it for the T-shirt, you need to go to SANS Hackfest.
Good to know. Developer security awareness training, John. You want to?
So we kind of led into this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we already talked about this a little bit, but I kind of want to come up with a couple of things because I know a lot of people listen to us whenever they're driving in their car. They have us on the monitor while they're working. So a couple of quick things. Whenever we're talking to customers, a lot of times we try to get low-hanging fruit off the table first. Once again, any good firm shouldn't be coming in and trying to find as many cross-site scripting, SQL injection, command injection vulnerabilities as possible. The end state goal for any assessment, whether it's being done by an external third-party consulting firm or internally, is whether or not the organization is more secure. And we have discovered that if an organization can do some developer awareness training before the test actually occurs to clean off a lot of the low-hanging fruit, maybe weed through some false positives, it comes up with a much better test and a much better product at the end, especially if this is actually baked in throughout the entire development process. So one of the things we recommend at Security Weekly, this would be in Guardians, this would be Black Hills Information Security, this would of course be like Carlos as well, is recommending that your developers use free and open source security assessment tools. Some of the best tools available to you would be tools like Z-Attack Proxy, or really Paul Nicto is still a viable tool, and a lot of people use that on a regular basis. These tools don't cost you anything at all. And you can also have SWAMP, Software Assurance Marketplace. As you could build SWAMP in a box to do static source code analysis of your source code before it actually hits production. And that doesn't cost anything. It's using open source tools. So there's a lot of different tools that are available for your developers, and you should try to train them on using these tools. And just point them in the right direction is usually all that's ever required. Just basically get them up and running, let them run with the tools, and basically say, this is now part of your job. Anytime you submit any code, test your own crap before you actually submit it. And you actually do something like break the build, and one should never break the build. So train your people, your developers, how to use this. They don't need to necessarily know like the inner workings of what cross-site scripting is or SQL injection is at the beginning, because a lot of these tools have great reporting and explaining what these things are and referencing it back to OWASP
and developers
to give them some visibility.
Typically, developers are really smart individuals and can read those results and say, oh, I need to go fix my code.
Yeah, by and large, they're fantastic, and they're going to learn what that is. And ultimately, Paul, as we know, developers actually want to write good code, and they want to do good things.
Yeah, so when I get into this discussion with people, inevitably it comes up that developers don't care about security.
And that's crap.
I don't necessarily believe that to be true, to be honest with you. Maybe in some cases, but the majority, I think, while they care, maybe they don't know that what they're doing is necessarily security or for security, but they do care that their code is resilient, that it functions properly, and that it handles exceptions. And that's really what we're talking about, is handling exceptions.
Agreed. And I also think at the end of the day, a lot of the vulnerabilities that we talk about, they seem really abstract to a lot of developers. Like it's like, oh, well, no one would ever be able to exploit that. But if you have a free tool and it's like, no, somebody could find this in a matter of 5 seconds, that changes things dramatically.
That's interesting. So your recommendation, John, is to, and I like this a lot, use the free tools that are available for developers to test some stuff on their own. And then maybe once they've done that, maybe do some more in-depth awareness for your developers, such as formalized training and teaching, or no?
Absolutely. I would say, yeah, I would start with the 1 hour. We got a 1 hour webcast. You guys can do it on your own. But I think that, starting there is a great place. But you're going to have some developers that get into it a lot more. And I think that having those developers maybe get some more formalized training would be a fantastic idea to become kind of the leaders of security within your development group. But the big problem that we see with a lot of our customers is they want a very codified process that security happens at this particular gate and they do testing at this gate. These are the only people that can use security tools, and there's 4 of them. And that's wrong. It needs to be a democracy. You need to share these tools far and wide so everyone has access to them, because everyone needs to learn. And the best way to learn is by using these tools.
Now, one of the aspects of having your developers implement some of these security tools on their own goes back to this notion of trust that I realized goes back into the early days when the first person was that wrote software and delivered it to a QA department. It's the same level of trust you have to have with your tools, and I've seen it both distrust from the developer in the tool and distrust between the developer and the QA department. Now, before there was a lot of common tools to be able to test security, that trust started with the relationship between development and QA. And what I've found is like this has always been a thing. If the QA department is not well trained enough and doesn't have the proper tools, training, and techniques to accurately identify bugs, they will report back to development false positives. Development will lose trust in QA and try and push the process past them because, hey, they're not finding anything that I need to fix anyhow. I can test it myself better, which maybe sometimes is the case, but most often not. I also find that there is a similar relationship today with tools such as static source code analysis, that the developer, the trust between the developer and that tool has been eroded because the tool has recommended so many false positives that the developer's like, I'm not going to use that tool anymore. It's not a benefit to me. How would you deal with that particular situation, John?
Well, the QA thing, I think that's just a training. If QA is actually providing tons of false positives, that's the core, is your QA team sucks and they need to get better. And one of the things you can do is you can actually roll developers through QA. So they actually get a stint to actually sit in QA and see how that process works. And there's kind of a trading back and forth. But whenever trust breaks down, it's also a thing, right? I know at Sandia National Labs for a long time, it was not illegal. It was against policy for systems administrators and anybody that wasn't a security professional to use a tool like Wireshark because that was a hacking tool. And there was a lot of fear that was built up around that. And we did a lot of training down there. We worked with a lot of developers. We talked through a lot of the issues and we got things through. And basically, the consensus was at the end of the day that tools don't make someone evil. If you have a bad developer, that bad developer doesn't need Z-Attack proxy. That bad developer doesn't need Wireshark to do evil, malicious things. They have enough power and they're writing code, they can hurt you anyway. That doesn't change that calculus. It doesn't increase or decrease that risk at all. Whereas if you take all of these tools away from your developers and you do not trust them, there's a far greater chance that they're going to screw up and there's going to be a catastrophic security vulnerability in the code. So you have to balance that risk out. And it is a trust game. Unfortunately, a lot of people think somehow magically if I give them Metasploit, they're going to turn into evil hackers. And that's going to be it. And that's not the way the world actually works at all, thankfully.
Right. What do you recommend folks do to increase the trust that developers have with their static source code analysis tools? We mentioned Swamp earlier. Do you find that to be the case, that you walk into a situation where the developers have a commercial static analysis tool and they're like, well, we don't use it because we don't trust it anymore?
Right now, they don't get a choice. And I think that also gets to another side of the issue of trust. A bunch of organizations, I'm just going to use Veracode as an example, are using Veracode very regularly, and it's built into their overall process. Before anything ever goes to production, Veracode is kind of that last gate. And that ultimately is also based on a lack of trust as well. You may have developers that say this tool provides a tremendous number of false positives. We think it's crap, whatever. But at the end of the day, these organizations have been breached by mistakes that the developers have made. So that's why management has actually forced a tremendous number of organizations to go down the path of doing static source code analysis. And yeah, there are absolutely going to be false positives. But one of the things I'll say to CIOs and CSOs is a good developer will be able to go through those false positives very, very quickly. If they spend a lot of time complaining and hemming and hawing, really what they're trying to do is they're trying to protect the fact that they don't quite understand what the source code analysis tool was giving them as far as information about their code. So they're attacking the tool itself to try to create kind of a straw man that you can kind of attack and talk about rather than talking about their code. Because even though, yeah, there are false positives don't happen nearly as much as a lot of developers and other people would have you believe.
Yeah, I also think the tools have gotten better as well.
Oh, I think they have too. I don't think there's any question. And that's really kind of getting the difference between a commercial tool and an open source tool. Yeah. Where you have Swamp with a whole bunch of open source scripts, yeah, there's going to be higher false positives, but it's free, right?
Yep. Okay.
It's absolutely free. And the commercial tools are commercial, and they cost a lot of money for a damn good reason. It's because they're very good at what they do.
Good advice. With that, we're going to take a short break, come back, and talk about vulnerability tracking and reporting. This is going to be fun. Stay tuned.